Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on African Confessions. The following story that you're going to be listening to, it was sent to me by one of our dear sisters. So this is the translation of that message that she sent to me. The translation reads like this. Hello, Brother Nanshi, how are you? Can you please post my own story as hidden identity? I have come here on your platform because I want to confess to you the things that I did with this other pastor. So me and this pastor, we met. This was when I had came to Harare. I had came to see my sister. So my sister was going to that pastor's church, but it was still a very small church. When we went there, that was when the pastor told me that he just wanted to pray for me. And when he was praying for me, he said, I want you to stretch out your hands. And as I was stretching out my hands, that was when this pastor locked his hands with mine and he started praying for me. And there is something that I just felt on that night that made me to lust after him. So I was supposed to return back to my parents' house, which is in Kweru. But I then told my sister that I just wanted to look for a job whilst I was staying with her. And I then started looking for a job. All that I wanted was to get close to that pastor. And it then happened that we went for this other prayer session. When we went there, the pastor then prayed for me again. But when he was praying for me, he was like trying to play with my hand, and he was using his finger and just rubbing me inside the palm of my hand. And I knew that this man, he was in love with me. So I opened my eyes and we looked at each other. He smiled at me and I also smiled at him. He then told me that I was supposed to go and speak with one of the ushers. I went and I spoke with this other lady. So this lady, she works as if she's sort of like an agent, because this pastor, his spiritual powers, he has to sleep with girls that are between 17 and 18. I don't want to lie to you. This is what this pastor was doing the time that I was dating him. And at that time, I went and I spoke with that lady who was working. So I then went and I spoke with that lady. The lady then took my phone numbers. Then she told me that I was supposed to come, and I went there. And when I went to church, the lady was there, including that pastor. We spoke. The man then said that he had seen that in me there was a great gift. I was so excited. And he said that I was supposed to continue praying for. He prophesied and he said that one day I was going to become a pastor's wife. And this was like something that was great that he was telling me. He asked me if I was already working. At that time, I was only 19. And I told him that, no, I am not working, Papa. He said, okay, I'm going to see what I can do. Are you able to do a CV for me? And at that time, I didn't even know how to create a CV. I was just a school dropout. And from there on, I started staying with this other guy who ended up breaking my heart. So I was embarrassed to tell him that I did not even know how to make a CV. He said, anyway, it does not even matter. You are the CV. Your body is a CV on its own. So you should come to my office for an interview. I went to his office, and when I went to his office, I knew what I was doing. Even the clothes that I was wearing, I knew that I wanted to seduce him. I went there and the interview started. It was only him and I, but this interview, it was about us sleeping with each other. We slept with each other, and I showed him the real me. I showed him a lot of styles, so much that he said that he had never slept with a woman that was as flexible as I was. This made me to be very happy. He then said, you must choose. I want you to tell me, which department do you want to work? Do you want to be an usher, the hosting team, the praise and worship? And I said, I want to be in the hosting team because I always wanted to be close to him. And that was when he gave me some money. He gave me so much money, this man, and he said that I do not want you to work for me, like people will notice that we are sleeping with each other. He gave me some money and he said, how about you go to Botswana? And I then went to Botswana. I bought a lot of clothes and sneakers. I returned back with those sneakers and I started selling them. I started selling them here in Kweru, and I was like making a lot of money. That is how I started dating that pastor. So this man, what I liked about him, he was someone that was very open. He even told me that it is fine if you are dating someone else on the side. I don't mind. But with the money that I was giving him, I then said, look, you are a rich man. The way that you have so much money, why would I want to date another guy? I don't want to spoil this opportunity that you have given me. So whenever we were making love, it was like telling me that he just wanted to experiment, but this was just a lie that he was telling me. He had already done this before. So he started like, I want us to experiment. I have heard that when you are sleeping with a man using the same tube where the poop comes out, it is really nice. Do you think that it is really nice? And I was like, no, I'm not sure about it. Is it even safe? So we then started watching porn together when we will be making love. So you would select those type of videos whereby the woman will be sleeping with a man using the same tool. I said, come on, let us just try it. He was the one who was telling me to try this thing. So how much do you want? And I said, I'm not even sure. He said, what is it that you want to do for your parents? So I said, my parents, ever since I was still a little girl, they always told me that they had hopes of buying a residential stand there in Harare, because in Gweru, at the place where my parents are staying, it is not like in the city. It is close to the rural areas. So the house that they built does not have title deeds. So they were like, yes, indeed, we were able to build this house, but I know that one day my children, they are just going to leave this house because it is not in the city. So I then told him, and he said that it is done. So the pastor then spoke with one of his friends who was working at the city council. So the pastor then said that he wanted to donate some land to someone, but that guy who was working at the city council, I heard him clearly because he had put him on the loudspeaker. Then the pastor said, well, you know what you need to do. I am going to give you something, am I not? So the guy then said, tomorrow I'm going to see who I am going to remove from the housing waiting list. And that is what happened. A few days later, the pastor then texted me a message, and he told me that I was supposed to bring my parents to Harare. So I spoke with my parents, but I did not tell them that this is what we were going to do in Harare. We then went to Harare with my parents, and we started staying at the place where my sister was staying with her husband. So when Sunday came, we then went to church, and I was acting all normal. As the pastor was preaching and praying, he then said, can I prophesy? And everyone was like, yes, Papa, prophesy. He then started to prophesy, and he was like talking about what my mom used to tell me when I was still growing up. And immediately I saw my mom, she started crying. So the pastor was saying that in this building, the Holy Spirit has told me that there is this woman. So this woman, she has been crying for a very long time. She just wants to build a home, and a home that will have title deeds, because currently in the area where she is staying with her poor husband, they are almost in the villages. They don't have any title deeds at all. Oh, the Holy Spirit is telling me something. The Holy Spirit is telling me something. And everyone in church started praying. When I looked at my mom, she was already crying, for she knew that the prophecy was all about her. But what she did not know was that her daughter had already paid for that house that she was about to be given by that pastor. The pastor then started pointing at everyone at church. He will point at someone, then he will say that the Holy Spirit says no. The Holy Spirit says no. And then he walked towards the place where we were sitting. Then he pointed at my mother. Then he started nodding his head, and he was like, the Holy Spirit says yes. The Holy Spirit says yes. And my mother, she started celebrating, jumping up and down and praising the Lord. That was when the pastor said that the Holy Spirit had told him to gift my mother with a residential stand here in Harare. But what my mom and my sister did not know was that the pastor had done something like a corrupt deal with this other official who was working at the city council, and someone was removed from the waiting list, from the housing waiting list. The pastor handed over everything to my parents. Currently, my parents, they have two houses, one in Gweru and one in Harare, but they do not know the price that I had to pay. After that, me and this pastor, we were like really close. He then told me that there was this other guy that he had seen when he had came to Gweru to see me. So this guy was studying at MSU. So I knew that guy the moment that he said that there is this other guy who looks more like a girl, less than a boy, and I knew whom he was talking about. And he said that he just wanted that guy to come to church. So I went and I spoke with that guy, but later on I heard the guy telling me that he had slept but later on, I heard that guy telling me that he had been sleeping with the pastor. So this pastor, he sleeps with women and he also sleeps with men. But he told me that his spiritual powers, he gets them each and every time when he sleeps with a woman that is somewhere around 17 to 18 years. That is where he gets his spiritual powers. I used to get some girls for him, and I used to get these girls at MSU. You know what MSU is like. They love money, those young girls. So even for $100, you will just pick up someone, then the pastor will come and sleep with that young woman. This is my confession, my brother. Yo, dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to me by our dear sister right there. Strange things do happen in this world. Yo.